Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem Harakakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders, great millstone that rule well. Shalom to all the brothers doing the work of sincerity and truth. Okay. I'm still doing that. That's not going away. Yeah. No, I saw this article, and it's basically just funny times now, because it's really like everything's what do you call it, man? Everything's kind of getting to a point where it seems like, you know, any crisis doesn't end, man. Now you got, like, right now as well on the news, is, you know, so-called Trump's meant to be getting arrested or something, and that's got a bunch of you know, that's getting a load of press. You know, you've still got the situation with Russia and Ukraine. They ain't really resolved into anything. And this article is obviously going into the banking side of things, where a big fucking hole has essentially been highlighted within the system. With you know, the banks going fucking tits up. So the way it's looking for Esau, for his system, for his kingdom, is it's on shaky ground. And this is the thing, is it's in the midst of prophecy moving, man. Prophecy's moving. It's the other big thing is AI technology and whatnot. And when all these things being mentioned, it's always mentioned with merging man with machine. That's always the angle they're going with. They're going with the angle of you know, them implants, that charagma. That's what's being highlighted. It's always talking about, like, oh, saying, you know, humanity could be merging with this. You know, we could be living forever. We're using nanobots. We're using this to make things happen, which ties into Revelation 13. But you know, it's you know, basically Babylon's receiving combinations, man. The body's getting tenderized, the chins, you know, the chin's looking soft as all hell. Shit. Okay, so there's a Market Watch. It says, opinion: most U.S. banks are technically near insolvency, and hundreds are already fully insolvent. Rubini says bank sector stress makes a stagflationary debt crisis more likely and potentially more severe. There's a duration risk hammered Silicon Valley Bank and seems to have been lost on many bankers, fixed income investors, and bank regulators. In January 2022, when yields on US 10-year Treasury bonds were still roughly 1%, those on German bonds were minus 0.5%, and I warned that inflation would be bad for both stocks and bonds. Higher inflation would lead to higher bond yield, which in turn would hurt stocks as the discount factor for dividends rose, but at the same time higher yields on safe bonds would imply a fall in their price too, owing to the inverse relationship between yields and bond prices. This basic principle, known as duration risk, seems to have been lost on many bankers, fixed income investors, and bank regulators. As rising inflation in 2022 led to higher bond yields, 10-year treasuries lost more value than the S&P 500, and anyone with long duration fixed income assets denominated in US dollars or euros was left holding the bag. Fixed income assets. Okay. So it says the consequences for this. It's too technical. But we'll get to the point. So the consequences for these investors have been severe. By the end of 2022, U.S. banks unrealized losses on security. Okay, yeah. So it's basically, so with because I think it was the thing that fucked over Silicon Valley Bank is they made losses, like everyone kind of made losses, but because they realized their losses, they ended up even more fucked, well, than everyone else. But it's the same thing with other banks, where if the only reason Silicon Valley Bank did that was because their what do you call it? Their they had a bunch of because of who invested in them. It was startups. Startups needed cash, so they were actually withdrawing cash, and then because they needed the cash, they had to they realized losses to get more cash. But then after they realized the losses, they're fucked, so they had to ask for for extra money. And then when people saw that, they thought they could smell the reek of death coming from them, so it pants them. Okay. So it says the consequences for these investors have been severe. By the end of 2022, US banks' unrealized losses on securities had reached $620 billion, about 28% of their total capital. But yes, unrealized in other banks because, people still have faith in the system. If at any point people to be like, on any kind of scale, were to be like, okay, no, I'm gonna have to take my money out, this is fucked, then it's basically can topple. It's a Jenga tower right now. Um, so it says, making matters worse, high interest rates have reduced the market value of banks' other assets as well. If you make a 10-year bank loan, when long-term interest rates are 1%, then those rates rise to 3.5%. The true value of that loan, what someone else on the market would pay you for it, will fall. Accounting for this implies that US banks' unrealized losses actually amount to 1.75 trillion or 8% of their capital. The unrealized nature of these losses is merely an artifact of the current regulatory regime, which allows banks to value securities and loans at their face value rather than at their true market value. That is fucking hilarious. But that's with the system, because it is it's all confusion. It's all smoke and mirrors, and it makes it easier to manipulate because then they can basically play and make it like, oh, okay, everything's fine, okay, everything's booming. Because it's like, you'll have people, they'll say like, oh, how's your stock portfolio going? And this is the thing, is until you actually pull that money out, it don't mean shit. And even then, it requires like whatever currency is in, the euro, the pound, the dollar, the ruble, the won, whatever currency is in, needs to actually still have worth as well. So those people, they'll check their portfolio daily. They might see, they might have had 100 grand invested at the start of 2013, where it hit like 450 grand in 2016, and then went up to like a million plus, and then it goes down to 800k, and they're gonna be feeling sad. But then all these times, it's that doesn't even mean anything, and a lot of these people invest in thinking 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the line. They're thinking like, okay, I'm investing, and I ain't even gonna bring this ain't even gonna get realized until I'm an old man, and I'm retired, or I need my money for my kids or some shit. That's, that's the level of faith people have. But again, the second a crack, the thing is, 2008's already happened. So it's like the second a crack is sensed, someone smells it, they're like, no, it's something wrong here. Then it's a wash. Everyone's gonna be scarpering out. So it says, to be sure. So it says, in fact, judging by the quality of their capital, most US banks are technically near insolvency, and hundreds are already fully insolvent. To be sure, rising inflation reduces the true value of banks' liabilities by increasing their deposit franchise, an asset that is not on their balance sheet, since banks still paying their 0% on most of the deposits, even though overnight rates have risen to 4% or more. This asset value rises when interest rates are higher. Indeed, some estimates suggest that rising interest rates have increased US banks' total deposit franchise value by about 1.75 trillion. So it's the way the whole system's set up is papier-mâché fucking, structure on top of a Jenga tower, on top of some cotton buds, man. That's essentially how, the system is built. Because it is funny as hell. Because, I can go into it more. but it's all technical. It's basically, and this is a thing that was really highlighted in it was really highlighted in what do you call it, 2008, that hey, the way the whole thing's built, it's it's all pretend, but they hey, that means that that basically means that what should and it's really gonna be by the elites, man, because for them they've the coming system, the system that's basically built off their technology, their infrastructure, that's gonna be, well, the charagma, the Marx, that's gonna be the core of it. That's what they're looking towards. That's why there's been such a push. That's why they're getting in people's minds, to be ready to accept these things. And it's gonna go smooth as hell. It's gonna go smooth as hell. Because, hey, people are simple as all hell. They don't really look into these things. And they're not aware of, how precarious the situation is. Like I said, they're thinking 20, 30 years down the line. They're thinking this place is sure as, is basically a sure foundation. They don't think it's going anywhere. But even for the elites, they ain't even looking to have this thing running as it is, as present, for too long. Jeremiah 51 and 5, 51 and 8. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her pain. If so be, she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country, for a judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. Yeah. Babylon can't be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she can't be healed. Forsake her. Everyone's going to be like, oh, no, it's a wash. It's done. It's dead. And that's what happened with that bank. Everyone came withdrawing, and they said, no, everything's fine. Everyone, as soon as they saw the signs, was like, nah, we're getting the fuck out of here. And it's going to be that way with these systems. It's like, I remember during the pandemic lockdown, that really highlighted how people's minds are going to move. They're just going to be like, nah, this is a wash. Thinking about this is dead food, and fucking flee. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Yeah, but Shalom.